and I felt that pressure of him being behind. We all have that at times. Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel, Learning with Boys. Today we're going to talk about to combined or not to combined. That is the question. I am a homeschool mom of 4 boys. I have graduated 2, and I have a 5th grader and a 10th grader this school year. And I feel burned about this subject, mainly because I have a gap between my 5th grader and 10th grader, but I have also had boys that were close together in our early homeschool years. So I just wanted to share some thoughts, and hopefully it will help someone that is trying to decipher on which direction to go and what will work best for them. I know a lot of times we know in our heart what would be best, and sometimes that comparison of what everybody else is doing is holding us back from what we should do. And that is going to look different for everybody, whether you have 1 student or 10 children. It's just going to be different. And even with a larger family, your larger family might look different than another larger family. And you need to do what God has called you to do in homeschooling them, whether it be combining or not combining. But I'm just going to give you a little background of what we have done and my thoughts on what worked for us, and maybe it would help you and where your children are at. When my boys were younger and we started homeschooling, I had a 1st grader and one that was K4, which was very lightly done, and I would have had a 2-year-old. So, and all I really knew was a Becca, and I know several families who do that all the way through. They're very close-knit and they're enjoyable to be around. I don't think, I think it's more than the curriculum when it comes to uniting your family together. So I do want to mention that if you want a unity, I just think there is so much more to it than the curriculum you choose. Now, we did not stay with Rebecca. I was new to homeschooling, searching things out like maybe some of you are, and that's why I want to talk about this today, that maybe it would help you. I do videos on homeschooling. If that interests you, I would really appreciate it if you liked this video and subscribed. All right, so 1st grader moved on. It really was not until our 3rd grade, he was in 3rd grade, that started combining. And for us, I would have had a 3rd grader, what would he have been, 8? And then a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And for us, that is what our family needed, a combining. And I would not go back and trade any of that. Now, things were not perfect. I was still brand new to homeschooling, I feel like. Still had a lot to learn. But I hope a new homeschool mom realizes that it's a journey and there will be different seasons and different things to learn, not only for your children, but for you also. So don't feel the stress of having to be like someone that is seasoned in their journey and has gone through lots of destinations and lots of different seasons, because your time will come and there will be decisions to make, and that will be one of them. Whether you want to combine your children in certain subjects or if you want to have them all separate. And you will have to do what works best for you. And for me, something that I really prayed a lot about each school year. I mean, each school year was different, a different season. So we did combine for a few years, but we did use different curriculum. I think each of those years, I know we used Mystery of History the 1st school year. And for me, I used book 1 and it was great. And I will tell you, for me, like I said, this was all new to me. So I enjoyed it because I really never learned about ancient history in such a fun way, okay? History was not my subject. That put a love in my heart for it, and I feel like my boys enjoyed it too. And I think when you enjoy something, that spreads. So we did combine that, and we combined our science. We used considering God's creation. I want to say we used that over a couple of years, and that for science, it was not something I always felt like we had to discipline ourselves to do every day. History, I tried to do that every day, or at least 4 days a week. That was our one thing together, along with Bible and read alouds. So, and I really think after that, there were periods of time that I just sort of wrote out my own curriculum, especially for history. I would just find books that we could read about that kept moving us forward in history. I think I must have found a timeline or something about different people and different things that would have happened, and that is how we did it. And I think we continued with considering God's creation, and then we went into beautiful feet. And I did not spend a lot of time, I don't think, in the medieval history. I just did what I thought I could do, but I wanted to use beautiful feet, early American history, so I wanted to sort of do a little medieval times with boys, which would have been nights and learning about that. It was more of a unit study that we did. And then we did, and during this time, they each had their own language arts, and they each had their own math. In the language arts, that included like spelling, but for writing, we probably did more of a narration type of work or copy work, especially when they're younger. A lot of copy work that correlated with their spelling. That's how we did it. It was mainly probably because of the curriculum we used, and that was just what worked best for us. But the language arts was separate, and I really didn't push grammar until they were like 3rd or 4th grade. That is just what worked for them, and each child was different. Some were ready earlier, and some we did a little bit later. So that is how we did that. And then the next year, we continued on, I think, with some more of our own study. And that is when my 4th child came along, and was very grateful. That was actually an answer to prayer. We did have a little time of rest. I think we may have pulled an Apologia book out for science here and there. But by the time he was due, like at the end of that first semester, he was due in April, I actually did my oldest would have been in 5th grade, and I felt that pressure of him being behind. We all have that at times, and my iron was low. I was just struggling to keep up with the reading, writing, and arithmetic. So I just read with the other boys, but I signed my oldest up for the BJU videos for history and science. He loved the history. He wasn't too crazy about the science part of it, which was fine. And a lot of times we would sit down and sort of watch and see what was going on too while he was doing that. But he enjoyed it. I think it was, 5th grade boy, you're starting to enter those middle school years, so that was sort of his thing, and it worked out great. The Lord knew what we needed, and I don't know if they still do it, but I know halfway through the school year, those videos, they usually have for like $100. I'm curious. I think I will be looking to check. I'm just curious if they still do that. I don't know. I know they've done it several different years, and that is a thought. If you're struggling, and I'll mention all that in just a minute. So, 6th grade, we were combined. That was our first year to use Heart of Dakota, Preparing Hearts for His Glory, and I combined my 4th grader and my 6th grader with that one, and guess what? My 1st grader, we did his language arts and math separate, but he sat in with all the reading and all the other stuff that we did with preparing, and if he was done, I let him go play. I also probably had a 1-year-old at that time, and tried to work around that with naps, but it really went okay, surprisingly enough, to have a little guy. So, but the next school year is when I would have had a 7th grader, and another season, another time to really dive into prayer. My second one, that school year really picked up on his reading. He was a late reader. This is where I want to say every child is different. Everybody's family's journey will be different with homeschooling. You will have different children at different stages. We moved him up in Heart of Dakota to Resurrection and Reformation where it was more independent. He really did a lot. I mean, that was a pretty independent year. I did some of the books with him, some of the read-alouds. He was actually taking a co-op writing class. We did one class with a co-op. All the kids did something. I think my second one did a science, and my third one, which had only been in first grade, did like a fun writing. I think it was a Draw Right Now type of class. It was simple. It was more for fun, and that was our first experience with co-op. And it was fine. I mean, I still had my little guy, and I just helped in my first graders class. So, and they were fine with that. So that worked out good. So that is really where the independence started. And really for each of them, because my fifth grader at the time, I just let him read books for history that year, and then he did the science at the co-op. So he was really on his own too. Now, we always did some form of Bible. We were always reading books together. So we always had family time. And I want you to keep in mind, my boys spent a lot of time together. They were outside playing football, digging trenches, building forts. It was not like there was not a lot of together time. But I think for them and for us, as my boys got older, they needed their own individual work. They were at different levels, especially when my third one was coming through, and he was just more laid back. So I did a lot of separate reading with him and his little brother at the time, which would have just been a toddler, just sat in with us when I did stuff with him. So I just wanted to share that after that time, we spent several years doing a combined science and history, which were wonderful, and I would not trade them. And if you gave me the best separate curriculum, it just would not have worked for us. Combining them and me having the opportunity really to spend that time with them when they were younger, I think we all enjoyed it, and we all enjoyed learning together. But there came a time where this boy wanted this and this boy wanted that, and that was fine, and it really worked out. Just wanting to share these thoughts with you to encourage you that if your children are sort of on different paths, and it's okay. There is sort of, like, I did go through a period of time that I really wanted to go back, and you can't. They grow up. They do. It's a new season, and it's a new journey, and that was not in God's plan for us, and that's okay. But I do want to tell you that, like I've mentioned several times in my other videos and in this video, we still did Bible and read-alouds, and a lot of people will do the morning time. But this is one thing I do want to encourage you as your teens are getting older, and I love the idea of together time, the Bible, and they're reading a book and that type of thing. I do want to encourage you on this one thought. Maybe you're already there. Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you've already been through it. If you have some thoughts or experience on this, please share, because like I said, everybody's journey will be different. They will have different stops on the way. They will have different situations that come up in their family. They will have different children with different learning styles. But if you have a high schooler and you are trying to spend that time together, that just remember the separate, and you are not combining. They do have a lot of work to do. So I try to keep that in mind, because I am doing some things together, usually a Bible and a read aloud, with my 5th grader and my 10th grader. But I know that he wants to get his work done. So I need to cut it. I don't need to make it a long, drawn out thing. But I am going to share a video next on what we've been doing together. And I do feel like just having, even if it's just one chapter and some of the books that the Lord has allowed me to find and read with them this school year, has been just a good bonding, mission-minded, just really good books that I have found this year, and I think all of them are ones that I haven't read before. So that was good for all of us. But if you are on this journey and you have high schoolers and younger children, I know there is curriculum out there that you can combined, everybody, and you can give them the books and send them off. And I know Tapestry of Grace is one of them, and there may be some others. Let me know. Is Biblioplan might be another. I think I even looked into Biblioplan one time, and I just felt like for us, the curriculum we were using was what God had for us. So, and everybody's journey is different, and that's what I want to encourage you with, is not to compare, and God does not want us to do that. He wants us to seek Him and what He wants us to do, and that's yearly, middle of the school year, when things may not seem like they're working 100%. It might be something we need to change. You might need to change your curriculum. You might need to just change your schedule throughout the day. So many different things. All right, those were my thoughts on combining, and I guess for us, our choice was to lead to independence, which I think even in high school when you do combined, I mean, they have their independent work. You might, some of those curriculums, you do some combining, but I do know that I've heard moms say, then they take the books that are for their level and go read. So it's not like they're not independent, I would assume. And even those, like I said, that might use a Becca all the way through and each child is in his own grade level. That would not be combining at all. But it does not mean that your family can't have unity and have other times together. And I know a couple families like that who have done that, and they're very close-knit. So it's just going to be different, and you just have to find what works for you and your student and the curriculum that works for them. And also keep in mind that it might be different curriculum for a different child. You might use this curriculum for one child and another curriculum for the other two. So that might be something you may consider also. All right, well, I hope this was helpful, gave you some insight, and I do appreciate you all watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you next time.